Hello, THL. Welcome to HearthCenter. I'm Donde. You know who I be, and I'm here tonight with Lotus Knight and Icon. Just a nice little group of three for the evening. How are we doing tonight, guys? Lotus Knight, how's it going for you?
Everything's going well. How are you doing, Donde?
Feeling good. Feeling good. Icon, how about you?
It's good, man. Excited to talk about everything.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple topics tonight that obviously we talk about every week, which is week three, the previous week four, the next week, and our special topic tonight is the dynamic duos of THL. So we're going to talk about a couple sets of players that tend to play with each other in various series across THL, and just kind of how they met and kind of their story. A little bit about the people tonight here, and if we do have some time at the end, we'll be happy to take some questions. And I think as a late addition, we're going to possibly talk about the leak of the expected rotating cards back into standard at the end of this. So if you haven't seen that, we'll talk about it and kind of give our impressions on it. So why don't we start with last week in THL? We'll start with Legacy as we normally do. So let me bring up a couple select games we wanted to talk about this week. And you should see that on your screen momentarily. So we have three specific matches from Destubs versus the Roundtable we want to talk about. Shim Jim gets to 3-0 with a sweep over Lotus Knight. We get another sweep over Apex Predator. That was Comp. And then the Chronic lost in a sweep to Super Murloc. So three big sweeps. This, I guess I'm not entirely surprised, I guess, at Comp. He's been a solid player when he's played. Shim Jim over Lotus Knight. This is a bit of a shock to me. I did expect it to be a bit closer. Lotus, what happened here?
So I think Shimjim is a great player, a great guy overall. I played pretty poorly this match. I feel like, yeah, he did get really good hands, but at the same time, I did not put on my. Part of it was because I was quite sleep deprived when we played. That's something to think about, and I try to avoid it, but every once in a while it happens that I had to do something and I couldn't sleep much the night before, and then I'm in for. Yeah,
Maybe
but it
we'll
was
maybe we'll have to do a topic on getting good sleep before you play your THL matches.
honestly, if I could learn that, that would be really nice.
It does happen, and as you mentioned, Shim Jim is a great player. He's a hero teammate of mine. Definitely a solid player. So him being 3-0 is not particularly a shock to me in any way, but just getting it done that way against a great opponent such as yourself is very impressive.
Yeah, I think honestly, 3 no's can happen in all of them, but I would say it's an important thing to always think how you're doing, and if you think you won't be able to get your matches done, make sure you have time to be playing your match in your best capacity.
Well, Diamond brought it up in chat here. Icon, you talked about this on Frozen Icons, mental state, sleep. Why don't you give us kind of your thoughts on that?
Sure. So there's a lot of sort of mental factors that can go into like the context of what you're playing with your THL match, and if even one of those gets thrown off, it's really important to like try and make sure that you're getting as many of those factors in line as possible. And some of those are including but not limited to sleep. The time of day that you're playing. The whether you're playing on
Right.
mobile or PC. The location that you're playing in, and it's not something that's super focused on, but like especially maybe in a bit of the lower seeds where people could be having like a bit more busy lives or a bit more of uh, like a hectic schedule. It's really important to make sure that you're trying to address as many of those factors as possible so you get the best possible THL experience.
And as we all know, Hearthstone is a game of small percentages. Like even the really really high level players are winning at like a 58 to 60% clip a lot of the time, and any little edge you can get is great. A 1% edge, 2% edge is a humongous swing. Um, And yeah, and as C-Max says, it can be hard to predict. If you're scheduling on Monday, you don't know what you're going to feel like on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, etc. That is something to consider, especially if you're playing in all 3 series or even 2 series. So yeah, I mean there are some factors there, and I guess just take some time for yourself, get yourself right before you play if you can. If I know, like last week, I had a match where I was unfortunately later than I anticipated, and I literally got home and was running into the house, just running through the door to run to the computer because I felt bad that I made my opponent wait any longer than they needed to, and like that was definitely not the right mental state to be in for that match. So I definitely get it. But back to the matches here. So we talked about Comp over Apex, Super Murloc over the Chronic, and the Chronic's off to a bit of a rough start this season, now dropping to 0-3. Super Murloc was 3-0 at the time of this match. He's apparently 4-0 now, which means he's already played this week before I could even get the graphic up. So he's just absolutely on a tear. Have to imagine that 4-0 is probably good enough to make the power rankings next week. Wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah,
Definitely.
probably.
All right. Well, let's jump to the next game, which was Abe Haas versus Prep is for Rogues, not Pilots. That was Snake versus Fuel, and much in the same vein of the Chronic. Kind of interested in Fuel's start here, 0-3. Does anybody have any I don't know any inside info here? Icon, that might be your territory. Fuel, is there something different about his prep this season, or is there anything different about kind of the way he's approaching the meta?
Sure. So, as Fuel is my captain in Legacy Series and my player in Pro Series, he's currently working 10-plus-hour work days every day.
Oh man.
And at the same time, in like his off hours, he's trying to get his house ready to sell because he's planning on selling his house. And so between that sort of stuff, he has not had a lot of time at all to practice. And definitely taking a little bit of a hit especially versus people like Snake, who are 16 years old and have lots of free time in high school to just grind the ever living daylights out of the game and just put 100% of their dedication into that. So a little bit of a discrepancy there, I think, showing itself in that week to week matchup.
Now, I wouldn't say just because you're 16 means you've got all the free time. A lot of people do like after school sports, after school activities, and you're still in school too. So, Snake,
well, sure,
good win.
I say that
but
because
I do hope you keep studying.
I say that because Snake specifically, the other day we were having a talk about that specifically, for, like as compared to people who didn't have as much time, and he was saying that about Liquid Ox as well. He was like, yeah, me and Ox are like able to play on your pro team because we have nothing better to do than spend 5 hours playing the game. And I was like, oh, like that's definitely a huge advantage, like at least compared to other 16-year-olds. So, definitely there are extracurriculars and stuff, but Snake in particular definitely has a lot of time that he's putting forth on that.
Another thing, just a note, I think something must be said about the strength of the one season goal. My schedule, I am only facing one non-550 PR player. This is a completely insane season for any one season gold. And it's something that people should be aware that a few of us are going to fall each week, even though it's unexpected. Fuel's a great player, but he is no doubt facing the top 10 of THL. If you just look at the roster, all the names are insane.
Yeah, it's definitely a murderer's row, so to speak, of top level players in THL, and I guess it could end up depending on. I haven't looked at the true PR, which is the PR beyond 550 for some of these players. It could be a possibility that some of these players do get shuffled down into the 2 seed at some point if they're struggling, but it's very possible that there's enough parity in that seed where a player beats B beats C beats A, etc. That everyone will just kind of hang around at the same PR level. But yeah, Fuel having a bit of a rough start, but big win for Snake, and by my math here, that's going to get him up over 550 PR to add add to the 550 PR list of 1 seeds we have going in Legacy right now. Avi, you can see the true PR if you go to the website and go to the players page for the respective series. And then at the very top of the player page, there should be a link you can click on, and you can sort by PR there, and it will be sorted by your true PR.
Right.
So moving to the next game, Dad Legend, which is Honest Zabe over Coles of Saturday Night Pain Gang. Coles off to a bit of a slow start. Lotus, you smacked him in week 1. He came back with a win in week 2, and then Honest Zabe gets his third win of the season, and that's a big 3-1 win for him. So I can say that I know that Coles has been doing his normal prep. He's been out here trying to figure out what lineups work for him, and sometimes I guess it just takes a couple weeks to get acclimated to it. So we'll see if he can right the ship this week. I don't want to give anything away deck wise or class wise, of course, but yeah, he's I think he'll bounce back.
Yeah, he's a great player. I'm sure he'll bounce.
I don't like to give him too much credit, but yeah, he's a pretty good player. So last we have Tap Last versus Dirty Mike and the Boys in Legacy, which was Icicles versus Tony Montana. This was a 2-0 versus 2-0 matchup, which had the makings of a match that would be close, but Icicles comes right out and gets the sweep over Tony. I don't know too much about Icicles, to be honest. Tony's been in THL for quite some time now, so definitely a bit of a surprise to see this big of a disparity. Icon, any thoughts on this match?
This is especially telling in Legacy because the sort of difficulty for sweeping is definitely a little bit higher. Obviously the cards can just not go people's way, but I think that maybe the Hunter ban is probably the most insight that I could get on this. I would typically expect something a little bit more conventional, like maybe a Priest ban to go along with the lineup that Icicles brought, so perhaps that could have factored into it a bit. Otherwise, probably not too sure.
It's funny you bring up the bans. Like if you look at the bans in the first few games, like Shim Jim banned Warrior, sweep. Comp banned Warrior, sweep. Super Murloc banned Warrior, sweep. So banning Warrior doesn't seem like a terrible idea. Obviously, there's a couple matches there where both players banned Warrior, and then in the last match, Icicles didn't ban Warrior, but Icicles didn't have a Warrior to ban. So I mean, I might just be reading too far into it, but overall, Warrior does seem like a good pick if you're gonna ban a class right now.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, looking at my stat system, I'm pretty sure almost anything that people bring, the result is a Warrior ban. It's kind of crazy because the fact is that Warrior has too much flexibility. So even if you think, oh, I can target control super well with this interesting quest paladin lineup, it doesn't matter. They bring aggro, you lose.
Right. And any experienced THL player will know, or not know, but have a good inkling of what you might expect them to bring, and can certainly shift into a polarized opposite deck, which Warrior does very well, because Aggro Warrior, like you said, is very different than Control Warrior. It goes without saying. But yeah, that's definitely always a good choice. It seems like to be a man in the Legacy series. So let's talk Hero, which of course slightly different THL meta in regards to what is available to bring. So we're going to pop some different games up on the screen. Got quite a few here to talk about. We wanted to talk first about the Notorious BIGs continuing to get it done. Myself over JR, that was a 3-2 win. Jammies over Lawful Dog with a 3-2 win. So we're both moving to 3-0 here. Jammies is a long-time teammate of mine in Hero, so excited to see him having a great season to start. And I don't want to jinx myself, so I don't want to talk too much more. But I think there was some smack talk being thrown around about this match last week, if I remember, guys.
I mean, I think so. I don't know. I think it's hard to predict you guys to lose, if I remember correctly. I wasn't really sure
specifically.
Oh, that you would. Oh, well, yeah. We're required to predict that you lose all the time. But yeah, no, it definitely seems like you the Warrior ban worked out well. Good Hearthstone was played. Druid into Warrior, definitely a good little matchup there. I don't know. Seems like a good match overall.
Yeah, no, it was very close.
Yeah, betting that Donde will lose is like betting that a coin will fall on its side or will not fall on its side. But yeah,
ouch, ouch.
Nah, I'm just joking. You're a good player. I feel I've lost you on ladder before, and yeah, you play well. It doesn't surprise me.
Whew, we should probably just move on now.
I think Jimmy's getting the win over Lawful Dog is pretty cool. As far as I know, he was like a little bit less involved in Hearthstone, And like what with like Mexico and uh, like just having a social life and stuff. But he put the SmackDown on Lawful Dog, man. That's really cool to see.
Yeah, I'm excited that he's off to such a good start. He has had a lot of stuff going on. He moved cross country, got married, so he's been very preoccupied. But when it comes to Hearthstone, he bears down. He gets it done. He's doing his prep, which I appreciate, and yeah, always a good teammate. Putting the SmackDown. I meant as the season is going on, he's putting the SmackDown, on everybody because he's 3-0 right now. Not particularly in that match. So I also got married. Listen, we all got full time jobs, bro. We all got full time jobs. Most of us do anyway. Not not
Yeah.
not the middle schoolers.
Yeah.
You goof. Omzi versus Liquidox. Omzi for ATL versus Liquidox and the Minutemen. I didn't know much about Omzi going into the season, but I think we know enough now that he's a solid player. Because we do know Liquid's
Yeah.
solid, and ATL's got a good pickup there in their 2 seed. So, yeah, 3-1. This is a good win.
Sorry for the pun, but I just have to say that we can't say that Liquid is solid. Just for the
Oh,
middle
man.
schoolers, they should know the difference.
ATL definitely has like a really good eye for like players to pick up though. I think last season they did particularly well to get to the finals by picking up Dave the Great and Binoculars, and it was sort of a question mark at the beginning of the season as to whether taking out Santa and Lars and then putting in these sort of new unknown players would be a benefit or a detriment to them, and it looks like it's like working out really well for them. So a consistent success again with sort of those rookie players from them, and I think it's really cool that Omzi's doing really well in the context of ATL in his first season.
Definitely. And speaking of rookie players, Monkeys in a Tree, 4 rookie players this past week, and I'm Achilles was the only one to get a win of those 4 players with a sweep over Chewbacca. And I would be remiss if we didn't bring up Quirky Turtle versus Super Murloc, which had a bit of an epic lead in to the match on Sunday night, and Quirky busted out a pretty sweet hype video that came out of nowhere, but it was certainly entertaining, and I have a feeling that this duo will come up later as well when we talk a bit more in our next segment. But they were talked about quite a bit, leading up to the match, and obviously on Last Saloon. So we won't go too far into that one, but we'll jump down to Bees versus Tap last. We got Pond versus 8-Bit, Copper Talon versus Mr. Shads. These were 2 matches of 2-0 players, and one went to each team. So Pond, I'm sorry, no, they weren't both 2-0 players. Pond was 1-1 at the time and moved up to 2-1, I should say. And Shaz was the same.
Copper Talon
Yeah,
was
Copper Talon was
2-0.
2-0. So there were 2 players that were 2-0 that were both knocked down to 2-1 by 1-1 players. So that's why everyone's 2-1 now, because math is hard. So Copper Talon, yeah, he drops down 2-1. Mr. Shads, I feel like he's a solid player for the 50 PR range. Like, he's got to be better than that 50 PR. Wouldn't you agree?
Shads has very high upset potential in the 5 seed because his PR isn't entirely reflective of where his skill level is at compared to other 5 seeds, and so when he goes against a player with maybe like 180 PR and down, he's got just at least a coin flip or better chance of winning just because of his high level of technical play coming from an arena background.
Right, exactly. I played with him. He subbed for our team last time, and he seems super knowledgeable for a 50 PR player. It's kind of insane. The fact that he's a 5 seed is really low.
Yeah, we always say that PR is our best representation of skill, but obviously that is a ladder skill, and that doesn't always equate to what you see in THL, and certainly doesn't even take into account arena in any capacity. So yeah, that's definitely a bright spot for Tap Blast, and that's. I think if they are going to have a good chance of advancing, we're going to have to see Mr. Schatz continue to win this season. And our last matches that we want to talk about here in Hero would be Kel's Good Boys versus Ask HS. Obviously, Ask HS's captain is Kel, so this is the fun matchup here of Kel getting a win over 2-star Mako and his team's namesake. So it's Desharmo and defeated Blue Sombrero in a sweep as well, which I find to be not entirely a shock because I know Desharmo's a solid player, but Blue is one of the best players in THL, and I wasn't quite expecting a sweep, but maybe he was a little rusty. It was his first match of the season.
Yeah, he was subbing for me. I'm very glad I did not play this match. But yeah, I think he was rusty. He was trying some interesting decks, and yeah, I feel like it just didn't go his way.
Icon, anything you'd like to add before we move on?
I think Desharmo's grinding Hearthstone very hard right now, and blue is a little bit here. Obviously, sweeps are a little bit more common in Hero Series because of the potential to win out with one deck, but maybe blue just a little bit off of his game, and then when he decides to put in a little bit more time, maybe we'll see a different side of him should he choose to sub in the 1 seed later in the season. Obviously, great win to Desharmo. He's definitely not a bad player by any means, and probably a little bit closer to what his actual PR is at 514 than at something like 300 or whatever he's at in a couple of the other series.
Yeah, in Legacy he's significantly lower, but yeah, I would say he's a quality 1 seed on any team that you put him on. And, And Avi, I do apologize. The graphic is a bit misleading. Yes, the cult did beat Monkeys in a Tree. The final score 14-10, and all 3 other games did go to the Colts. So we weren't trying to make it seem like you lost in any way, but just those were kind of the interesting matches from that series. So
just sweep more forehead.
Yeah, just I mean, Avi did sweep. He swept Snake Fight.
Oh, there you go.
And the Big Ten swept your
okay.
Your mom.
Well, there you have it.
So yeah, they did do that. So. But I mean, like, let's be honest. Avi sweeping nowadays is just not really like interesting. No offense. I mean that in like the best possible way.
True.
It's just like
tank your PR so we can get like more higher expectations on you.
When you don't sweep, we'll feature your game because then that's something unique.
True.
So before we move on, let's talk about Pro. I said that kind of sad. I didn't mean that to sound sad. Like, I want to talk about Pro. Avi, you're very interesting, my friend. The graphic should be there. There it is. All right. Ron Mexico of the Unknown fell to Kungmar of the Propane Gang. That was a 2-0 sweep, you know, as far as a best of 3 can be a sweep. And Kungmar advances to 3-0. We will be talking about him later, but just to at least give you an appetizer of it, Kungmar was rank 1 North America and Europe at near the end of last season. I think he finished 1 on NA and 2 in Europe, or vice versa. So he had a pretty busy Hearthstone month. I knew of his name from being teammates with Darkseid, and he talked about him before, but obviously didn't really know anything about him as a player until THL here, and like he's got to be considered to be one of the best players in the series right now, right?
I mean, he is now, I'll tell you that. He's 3-0, and rank 1 and rank 1 is no small feat, so I think that if people didn't know him before, they definitely do now. Double Warlock bans is really interesting for that matchup. That's not something that you see a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, especially like with the shield of the warrior, and then to ban the warlock. Yeah. So we'll get back to Kungmar a little bit later. And related, the next matchup here was Daravis with a 2-1 win over Tony Montana, and Dirty Mike with a 2-1 win over Avi. And I feel like this portion of HearthCenter becomes Daravis watch each week, because we're just seeing, what will it take for him to lose.
Oh yeah.
And what do you think it will take for him to lose?
Kungmar, and that's it.
Kungmar, and that's it.
Let's talk about this when we talk about the matches for the week.
Yeah. We're just whetting the appetite right now. That's going to come up a little bit later, of course. That's what we in the business call a tease.
Right.
So Tap Last versus FTL. CMAC got a 2-0 win over Fuel, which was his Fuel's first loss of the season, and CMAC rolls into 3-0. And Typhoon over Itachi was I guess not surprising necessarily, but Itachi off to a bit of a slow start in Pro despite his hot start in the other series, and Typhoon picking up his first win with a 2-0 sweep as well. Anything you want to talk about there, Lotus, in either of these games?
Well, Typhoon is a great player, and ex-teammate of mine, and Itachi is a current teammate of mine. So I think they both put a lot of work into it. They both play a lot. It's nice. I'm glad to see that Typhoon is coming back up after having a rough. Not unexpected though.
Yeah, Typhoon did well in the World Cup as well, which was the same format, Shielded Conquest, and it kind of surprised me to see him struggle to 0-2 out of the gate, knowing what he was capable of. I did lose to him in the group stage as well, so I can definitely vouch for him as a solid player. And our last match here, the solution to winning a Hearthstone is to not play Hearthstone. That is, it's true about a lot of things, unfortunately, but yeah, Hearthstone in particular is very true. So Skittles, our guest from last week for the boys, fell to Smear of Dr. Boom Shakalaka. Smear off to a 3-0 start in his first season of pro action. And I guess this is probably something, Icon, you know Smear pretty well from Lion Den Warriors last season. Take us through a little bit on what you kind of have for Smear's expectations for the rest of the season here.
Smear is somebody who plays exponentially better the better his opponent is, and I think Skittles is definitely a very good. I imagine, from what I know about Smear, his prep process for this match consisted of looking up every class that Skittles has ever played on in THL, calculating like the most probable ones that he would have played out of that, picking the 4 decks that would statistically do the best against that, and then practicing those matchups about 30 times each per deck. Like, so for a combined total of maybe 120 times with Pond or one of the other members of Dr. Boom. And as long as he keeps doing that, I think he will keep winning. So, go Smear, man. I just love him. I think he plays very, very well for what his skill level originally was, because he started out as a 4 seed in Legacy, right? Like, that dude had like 200 PR, and he's 3-0 in Pro now. So, I don't know. Huge success story there.
Yeah, flying up in the PR world, as well as making a splash in Pro too. Lotus, anything you'd like to touch on before we go on to the next segment?
Not really. I think Pro's going well. It seems like we're having a lot of plays that are looking really strong over there, and it will be an interesting week to watch.
It certainly will, which we will talk about shortly. But before we get to that, I did want to, first of all, thank everybody who does, of course, subscribe to the channel and does, help us to continue to create content week in and week out. If you can't subscribe to the channel, that obviously it's understandable, but feel free to get in contact with me if you'd like to help us make some content. We're always looking for new content creators, both written and on stream. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, please let me know. Hit me up in Discord or email, whatever's easiest for you, and we will find something to get you involved. But we like your money too, so go ahead and hit subscribe and turn the notifications on so you always know when we go live. That's it. That's all I got for PSA. So, dynamic duos of THL. We asked about this last week in Discord to get an idea of, some of the more prominent pairs of players. There's always a few players that they only play with one other person. If they're in certain series, or they just kind of have an affiliation. We wanted to know kind of the story behind some of the people in THL. We talk about everybody's skill level, we talk about them as players, but we kind of want to know the histories of some of these players. So Lotus, I know you did a little bit of research here, and we're happy to kind of just talk about what we found.
Sure. So the first duo I think we should open with would be Diamond and Copper. Diamond is a captain for quite a while in THL and great player, very nice guy. Copper has been with him for quite a few seasons since his rookie. Diamond actually brought Copper from school, and the two of them talk a lot. They seem to play together a lot. Copper has a lot of interesting lists as well, so it seems like a pretty nice duo.
Yeah, I was teammates with Diamond. Well, with Copper, I was teammates, and Diamond was the captain of the hero team I was on last season. And I can definitely vouch for the fact that they are very, very communicative, not only with each other but in general in the Discord. And Copper is always looking for input from Diamond, always, looking to run scrims and whatnot. And it shows in his record. He's very, very solid player. But it's cool to see that these are two real life friends that that they stick together, and I think we'll see that as a common thread here as we go throughout our dynamic duos. Diamond picked me up on his hero team for my first season. He did. We were teammates as well, Tris, if you recall. So I think the next duo we want to talk about was Boozosaurus and Ghost. Is that right, Icon?
Yep.
Or yeah, Icon. I'll let you take this one.
Sure. So, Boozosaurus and Ghost were college roommates who met through their cousin, and they played a lot through the TESPA first season, and they've been on a lot of teams together since, whether that be the current roster of Bejas, whether it be something like McBommelds, or whether that be there's one more that I'm not thinking of, but it's Hero, so I don't really remember. But they've typically been a 2-seed, 4-seed duo. They prep a lot together, and from being in a couple of their Discords, I know they definitely work very hard together and have a lot of team chemistry.
And you mentioned they played TESPA. What season was TESPA's first season? What year was that?
TESPA's existed since before I was in college or even maybe early high school, so I don't actually know. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting is they actually met through their cousin and they were college roommates. And Hearthstone did hold them in college for a bit, but they ended up doing fine.
Yeah, I know a thing or two about games breaking up your college experience. Classic WoW.
Yeah.
And by classic WoW I mean actual retail classic WoW.
Vanilla WoW, yeah.
Vanilla was 2005, which was when I was in college, and I definitely ruined a few people's
oh my god,
college lives by bringing that into the fold. I was the first person in my group to get it, and then it was bad. It was not good.
I was in preschool when you were in college. That's insane.
Don't worry about it.
Bro.
Yeah, and now I feel old as well.
Dude, that's nutty.
Yeah, I graduated high school in 2004.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was when I graduated middle school.
Oh, guys, come on. Don't do this to me. This is bad. Let's move on to another duo,
Dirvis says that it was called Hearthstone Collegiate Championships, and it was just a large double limb bracket with the top 8 at BlizzCon, so that makes sense.
Okay.
It's been a thing since open beta, apparently.
Yeah, CMAX said 2015. I thought 2016, so that wasn't too far off, but yeah. Oh god, you guys were born after I graduated college.
Yeah.
Or graduated high school, I should say. I've known my wife longer than you guys were alive. Oh, my lord.
Whoa.
Anyway, yeah, my wife and I started dating in 2002, 2003.
Oh, wow.
So
congratulations.
Yeah. Yay! Marriage.
Aw, yeah, that's cute.
So we're a dynamic duo of a different kind, but not Hearthstone, because she's bad. I love her. So Pond and Smear were the next duo we were going to talk about.
I was going to say so is Mako, but he and Boo still play together.
Pond and Smear had a championship run last season in Lion Warriors, and as Icon, as you alluded to, they practice a lot together, or just a lot in general. So Icon, you have the closest relationship with the two of them from being their captain last season, at least the second half of the season. So talk to us about Pond and Smear.
Yeah, so Pond and Smear originally met because of Lion Warriors. Smear was a friend of Mega Man's, and Pond had been brought on as a sub that eventually permanently stayed with the team when we figured out that he was really, really good. And Pond and Smear just sort of took to each other almost instantly in terms of how they prepped and stuff. The chemistry that they had upon just sort of coming into the team and meeting was really, really insane to watch, because they both have this crazy drive to just get better at the game through raw determination and hard work and stuff. and they sort of bounce off of each other with that, and it just results in these incredibly long, like crazy intense prep sessions that I've probably talked about a million times. But I find it really impressive how motivated they make each other and how well that translates into success in their games, as at least as a duo within THL. So
Definitely, and yeah, we've talked about Pond and Smear quite a bit too, and they have been frequently showing up in the last few seasons on power rankings and whatnot. So the we're seeing the benefits of of that deep practice and relationship that they have together. So we're gonna feature, I guess, Boozosaurus twice. Is that right, Lotus?
Yeah, we're going to feature Booz twice because he tends to play a lot with the same people. He's been playing with Mako for quite a while, and I'm going to tell a very funny story in the beginning of our team that highlighted the dynamic a lot, where we were having a big Discord discussion because Mako was pretty seriously defending 9 lives up to Sari, Highlander, Hunter. So he could draw his whole deck 35 times, and we were all kind of resistant to it. And it was just...
As you should be.
Yeah, but it was a really interesting dynamic to see how Booz was talking to me, just like, convince him otherwise. Please, someone needs to do it before he starts. I think they just have a lot of synergy. They talk a lot about their matches. They play together a lot. Yeah.
Yes, that is that is fun. I can't believe you would possibly suggest that deck.
yeah, they also met as part of HSA, and they've played in multiple HSA, BBYC lineups and stuff since. And
Yeah.
after Mako spent some time in HSA, he sort of branched out into captaining his own teams and is now including Booz in that. So that's sort of translated into a long-term relationship of sorts.
So the next duo that we have on the list, I have to admit, I don't know who you're talking about particularly, because you have listed as Avi and Dervius, and I don't know if you're actually, I don't know if you
He's
were
talking
making
about
the meta
SEMA comp
joke.
in the
Yeah,
official THL Discord.
I didn't know if you were making the CMAC joke because he named himself Dervius after Saku misspelled
That was not on
Dervis.
purpose.
Apparently, it's just a common typo.
uh,
So okay, so it's Avi and real Dervis, not fake Dervis.
yes, not fake Dervis.
So they met in online tournaments, he said, and then Avi
Yes.
invited him, which might be the best recruiting pull of all time.
Right. Yeah, that seems pretty amazing. They've been playing together for quite a while, and they tend to play for tournaments, DESPA, and actually also THL.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I know they're both in pro together, and this would be another, like Avi tends to do with his teams where they have like two really high level, him being one of them, high level seeds on the team. He has him and Itachi on one, and then like one of them is just broken in the 2 seed. It doesn't necessarily work quite as well in pro, since the seeds do shift based on performance. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting beginning to their partnership, so to speak.
Right.
So
yeah. So if they want to post anything, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, if they've got more stories, they probably don't want to give too much away. But yeah, let us know. So this next one is you, Lotus, in twos.
Yeah, we've been playing for 2 years and a half or so, ever since Sangoro, and actually, this is an interesting thing. So, at some point, Twos posted on the competitive Hearthstone Discord, or not Discord, Reddit, that he was going to do a coaching tavern to coach players to get Legend for the first time. And I had just gotten Legend for the second time, and I just saw, you know what, that sounds like a really cool idea. Maybe I should join it. And we started coaching, and we would play together a lot, all the coaches. That tavern actually was pretty busy for that one season. And then almost all the coaches just said, yeah, I'm done. I don't have time for this, and went to do something else. But during that time, we just would play together so much until one day, I think this was much later in Witchwood, where Twos just said, you know what, there's this Hearthstone League we should all play. And it is fine to use the L word here because we still had that term at the time.
At the time, it's okay.
Yeah, at the time it would technically be fine. And we came here. Chigmo actually signed us up.
There's a blast from the past.
Yeah, no, and we just played for MSI for the first season, and I had such a poor performance that season, but it was fun. And we've stayed ever since. We've talked, I think, almost every week. We still talk decks. Um, it's interesting because we have very different dynamics. I do a lot of stats, and I think a lot about which decks to bring. But Twos, on the other hand, is really good with lists. So he always knows things like there's this weird tech card that someone brought in this situation, and you should try it, and it ends up working really well. I'm not as good with lists as he is.
That shocks me, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he always has interesting suggestions. I don't know. We disagree a bit. He does want to put Barista Lynchen and the decoy card into every single deck if he can. Yeah. But he's really good with tech cards, really.
Well, that's cool. Twos always has the best text. I actually, I ran into Twos before playing THL. We ended up in a, open cup back in the day, and so it was weird because I was like, oh, this guy's already on my friends list when he joined THL, and so it was just kind of weird that if you play competitive Hearthstone, even obviously we're not grandmasters or anything, but you end up running in the same circles as people eventually at some point.
Yeah, that's actually true. Almost everyone from the tavern that we played would play open cups. I was typically the one who played the least open cups, just because it always lands in a time that's not good for me.
Yeah, I definitely understand.
Yeah.
So the last duo that we're going to talk about is it's here comes the Icons boomer alert again. It's myself and Coles, which I think everyone knows by now that Coles and I have been best friends for let's see, 23 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
we met when I was 10, and well, we were 10 because we were both 10.
Aww.
And
That's adorable.
it is adorable.
Do you have a picture of the two of you small?
I mean, like camera phones weren't a thing back then, so not probably like Polaroid.
Do you have
somewhere.
Polaroids of you two
Probably
standing
somewhere,
around?
Probably. So we've been best friends since elementary school, and it's funny story about basically this is how we met. This goes so deep. I've told this story at his this was part of my best man speech at his wedding.
Aww.
So he didn't even remember how we met. Basically, what happened was we got off the bus the first day of school. I'd moved to the neighborhood about a week prior to school starting, so I really didn't know anybody. My little brother and I were both on the bus. My little brother is in first grade. I was in fifth grade. So we get off the bus at the bus stop, but my brother doesn't get off the bus, and I look to see him on the bus as it's driving away. So I'm freaking out. And Cole sees me freaking out, and he's like, "Don't worry, there's a bus stop down the street." So we just drop our bags and sprint down the street, and the neighborhood was like a loop. So we managed to get out in front of where the bus was, get to the next bus stop, and get my brother off the bus. And so that was the first time I'd ever met him, and he introduced himself at that point, like 10-year-old style anyway. And he was like, "Hey, that's my house right there. Do you want to play basketball and football and whatever in my backyard?" I was like, "Yeah, I would definitely want to do that." And so that's what we did literally every day after school. And like I'd probably still do it if I lived near him and didn't have a bum knee. So that's how we met, and that was how we became friends. And ever since then, we've played sports together, Hearthstone, video games. Like we talk literally every day. At some point or another, we've talked every day for 23 years, even though we didn't go to college together or anything like that. So yeah, that's us. That's our story.
That's so
That's really
wholesome.
nice.
So yep, that's cool. And he's basically we're basically the same person. So he doesn't talk much, but essentially, if you've met me, you've met him. My wife hates it. She's like, "How are you two the same person?" I was like, "We've known each other for 23 years. It's impossible for us to not be the same person."
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now that everyone is asleep, thanks to my story, why don't we talk about week 4? So
Sure.
All right.
All right, so we got a couple games that we wanted to highlight from each series. We're going to start with Legacy. We've got 1 gold, 1 red. Ridiculous Hat of the Pod People versus Avi of Wet Boys. Our hat's 2-1, 2-1. Avi is 3-0, of course. Tough. I mean, I think this is a matchup that transcends the records To be honest, like if Hat was 0-3 and Avi was 3-0, I would still sit here and say like this is going to be close.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both great players. I think it's going to be a great match. I would say Avi has the edge just because Arhat was out of town for a bit, and I don't know if he's been playing as much as. But yeah, it looks like a great match.
Yeah, I think I've played Arhat once in Legacy, and he just absolutely stomped me to the ground, which that was like 2 or 3 seasons ago at this point. So yeah, but Avi obviously great player. You know, it's hard to pick against him. Just how prolific he's been in every series, regardless of the format. So I would give the edge to Avi just on, as you mentioned, the factors of he's probably playing a little bit more than Arhat, definitely involved in the meta more at this point, and I think that's a slight edge there.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all in agreement. Avi gets the win. Icicles, we talked about earlier, of Tap Last, still 3-0 versus Honest Zabe of Dad Legend, also 3-0 now. So they can't both be undefeated. Who do
No.
we like here?
So just as a note, both of them are probably going to be in the power rankings just because of their
Understandable,
records,
yeah.
and whoever loses here is losing to a 4-0 player. We expect them to be doing well independent of that. I think, honestly, Hanazabe has more experience with THL, and I'm going to have to go with the fact that experience helps, so probably Hanazabe, but it's hard to say.
Is there a point where maybe being new to THL kind of gives you that little unpredictability? Maybe it's harder to predict what your lineup might be since somebody new to it might not have tendencies yet. Is that a possibility?
I would say more than that, that's part of it, but even more than that, there's also the fact that when you come in, your PR might not actually be your true PR.
That's important.
So there's the
Definitely.
fact that when you're new, you might be playing in a PR that actually you shouldn't be playing. That being said, this is a one seed match, so that.
Icon, what do you think about this Red Series matchup? Or Red Conference matchup?
I think that Icicles has a slight advantage in that he has a little bit less history behind him. Speaking a little bit to your question about newer players in THL, I do think that it is a little bit of an advantage because Honest Zabe has multiple seasons of data behind him, and Icicles does not. And so maybe for that reason alone, I think it would give the slight edge to Icicles. If I were to put a score to this, I would probably put 3-2 with Icicles taking the win. But I think that it could definitely go either way. And this is one of the most evenly matched sort of one seed matchups that I could pick out of this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, as was mentioned, I do believe we will be seeing both of these players again, if not very soon next week, on the debut of the power rankings. So we'll move on to Hero now, where we have 3 matches to talk about, one in each series and one in each conference, one cross-conference match as well. So JR Juggerlaw of the Ugly Mucklings will be playing Omzi. So JR took his first loss last week, 2-1. He's 2-1 now. Omzi's 3-0. So that's a big match in purple. Dirty Mike of Tan Pams versus Twos of KGB. That's the cross conference match. And Dirty Mike is trying to move back to 500 while making Twos do the same. And then Ron Mexico of Bees versus Pasca. Both players 2-1, looking to possibly push themselves into the top 10 with a win over in the Teal Conference. So let's start with JR versus Omzi. Icon, what are you thinking about this match?
It's very hard to bet against Omzi. I think that it's JR. What's the best way to say this? You are definitely doing super decently. You were 3-0 going into the or 2-0 going into the week, right?
Into last week, correct.
Yeah. So and then Jared lost to you, and so I think it's a little bit harder to predict him to win against somebody who's 3-0. I think somebody that has that level of consistency, especially at a higher seed, is definitely very favored to win. Whereas JR definitely a very good player, but has demonstrated before that he is winnable against. You can win against him, and we have not yet seen Omzi lose. So I think I'm going to go with Omzi.
Lotus, how do you feel about it?
I think it is true that we haven't seen Omsi lose, but again, I actually consider experience an important thing, even if a player is climbing. So I think JR might take this one.
Yeah,
And
I can definitely see the experience angle, and I can definitely see the the consistent player angle. I wonder. I guess like maybe it comes down to the team environment, and right now that seems like a push as well. These are two teams that have been around for a long, long time with players who would be supporting uh, their teammates very, very well. I would imagine both are well supported in their endeavors to create lineups each week.
hmm
So Dirty Mike versus Twos. Lotus, you know Twos. You think he wins over Dirty Mike?
I think he wins, but I think this is a good match. Dirty Mike is a good player. He's been playing in THL since forever. Tews has been playing for 4 seasons now. This is his 5th season. So I think he can win this one. I expect him to, but it also depends on how focused in HS he is and not. Tews has been bit by the Minecraft bug.
Minecraft? That's like the oldest game.
I know, right?
I see. Is it UHC? Diamond mentioned something to me about UHC recently.
I don't know. I've never played
Or UHC or Bad Lion. One of the Zoomers in chat hit me up with that. I play a little bit of that.
Yeah, I know nothing about Minecraft. I just
It's just like competitive like Minecraft is basically what it is, and which is I think what he's doing. So I mean respect to that.
I mean competitive would make the game more interesting to me, so there's that.
I didn't know the game was competitive at all.
I didn't know there was a mode that you can make it competitive. No.
Oh yeah, no, it can get pretty serious for sure. Oh okay, yeah, Trish, there you go. That makes sense. Trish, is it UHC or like Skyblock or something like that? Just let me know in chat. But yeah, move on. The older people don't know what we're talking about.
uh, so Dirty Mike
Ouch.
is my Pro Series teammate, and I think I wouldn't sleep on him. He's especially in Hero. He wasted me last season when we played in Hero, and definitely very capable of. If Twos isn't playing enough Hearthstone, he's not doing enough prep. I think Dirty Mike could easily step in and get a win here.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So last but not least, we want to talk about Ron Mexico versus Pasca. Pasca having a pretty good debut in THL at 2-1 right now. Ron Mexico started last season and has been consistently strong throughout now the first one and change seasons that he's played. Do we have any sort of idea where the advantage might be here, Lotus?
Um, I'll have to go the argument I had before just for consistency. I still think experience matters. But the NPH guys have been putting pretty good showing, so I think this is a matchup to look forward to.
Yeah, these are two teams that definitely want to continue to push as we enter to. After this will be the second half of the regular season, and you run out of time awful quick if you're not in at least striking distance of the playoffs by week 4, week 5.
Right.
So this is definitely an important match for both these players and their teams.
Right.
Icon, anything before we move on to Pro?
It's hard to bet against Ron. I might just be a Ron fanboy, but I've seen him play a lot. He does very consistently well across all series. He is definitely a very high performer, and Posca's pretty dope, but I would probably give this to Ron.
Also, just as an aside, two of the nicest guys I've talked to in Discord. So both winning
Yeah, they are
on
really, really
a
wholesome and positive
social
people.
side. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about Pro before we finish up for the evening. We've got a nice slate of games, one from each game that's going to be going on this week. We're just going to start with the bad boy matchup of the week. It's Kungmar of Propane Gang versus Daravis of Bad to the Bone. So we'll feature Daravis every week, of course, but Kungmar at 3-0, Daravis at 3-0. I've already told Kungmar, we'll tell you too, Daravis, whenever you know what time you're playing, we will make sure we get a cast team if you don't mind playing on
Yeah.
stream. So let us know, because we want to get you guys on stream. If it's like, in the afternoon on a day, on like a Friday or whatever, we'll figure it out. So just let us know, whatever's comfortable for you guys. But I definitely don't want to undersell this match. It could very well be the biggest match in THL regular season history. And we had Language Hacker last season for a game
Yeah.
in the playoffs, though.
Yeah, we had Typhoon beat some random guy. That's
right.
Yeah.
Typhoon showed him where the lemonade was made.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, super hype match. Can you even? I mean, like, okay, so you're saying
Tap at the end. You have the thing named Tap at the end.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just noticed that.
I'm glad you appreciate it.
That's funny.
So if you pick against Daravis, you're picking against a guy who's never lost in THL. If you pick against Kugmar, you're picking against a guy who finished both rank 1 and rank 2 last season on ladder. Like, how do you even make that choice?
You don't. You predict the thing that happened a couple of seasons ago, where Brasky played Casey Clark, and they each misbanned one deck, and so it went to 2-2, and neither of them could technically ever win. And so they basically each got 2 points and then had to walk away from there, and it was like one of the most complicated rulings we've ever had to deal with. I think that Kungmar and Daravis should work out some sort of 1-1 situation so that it forever remains in equilibrium.
Oh man, that would be funny.
Yeah. On one side, you have a player who's done very well on ladder and very well in THL so far, and on the other side, you have the exact same thing. So it's really hard to say. I don't think there's a way to judge this match. It's just, I really hope it's on stream somehow.
Actually, I actually really hope it's Kungmar, and I'll come out and say that right now, because I think that somebody needs to have the storyline of being the guy that ended Daravis' streak, and 15-0 or whatever he's at, or something stupid like that, is like way more of like a Giant Slayer story than like 3-0 or like whatever Kungmar's on. So I'm voting for Kungmar as the David and Goliath story.
Yeah, hard to believe
be
that
fair,
somebody's like David in this.
Yeah, no, I know. It's like it's kind of weird to pick a David in like a matchup like that, but
I was rooting so much for Kel against Daravis. And Daravis is a great player, very nice guy, but I was rooting for Kel like crazy.
If Kungmar is David, what does that make Kel? Like
David from the VeggieTales parody of David and Goliath, maybe.
Oh, no.
It's like, yeah, probably a leper gnome or something.
Oh man. Well, at least when Kel got exploded, he did 2 damage to Daravis.
Yeah.
That's true.
So speaking of the guy who took down Language Hacker, Typhoon versus Twos is the second match. Tap Last versus For the Boys. So these are 2 players at 1 and 2 right now, trying to get back up, to 500 and make that final playoff push. I think if I recall correctly, we already had classes for this matchup. I'm gonna bring that back up real quick.
Ron and Snake?
No, Typhoon versus Twos.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say I know one of those people, and he is not submitted yet.
Yeah, so Typhoon. I don't even need to see the classes. I can tell you what the decks are that are being played. So Typhoon has brought Highlander Hunter, Combo Priest. It looks like the aggressive aggro overload Shaman and the Highlander Warrior. It has Octosari.
Oh boy.
And the lineup on the other side for Twos is an aggro warrior, then a combo priest, of course, a quest druid, and a quest shaman. So it's a good spread of decks. Only the combo priest the same between them.
Yeah. Right. I think this is going to be a good match because the 2 of them know each other and have played together a lot. So I'm expecting some fun. I'm expecting them to also just try to bring something that the other will enjoy facing.
I'm trying to think of like what the ban strategy would be here. Like the I really don't know. I've never seen a lineup quite like either of these. Also interesting.
Well, I'm pretty sure Isn't it always just ban combo priest and shield the warrior?
Or vice versa, sure.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
I feel like I like Tues's lineup slightly more, but that's mostly because I don't know how to play Highlander Warrior.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't say many of us do.
It's like it seems like it has the trappings of an aggressive deck because you got Temple Berserker in there, Bloodsworn Mercenary that wants to get on board and go a little bit wide, but then you do things at the end like Sul Thraze. It's and like Ziliax in the deck too, so it's like it's an odd duck.
Yeah.
So all right. So the next match we're going to talk about is Kungmar versus Daravis. Um, get that on stream. Just kidding. Ron Mexico versus Snake. It's 2-1 versus 2-1. The Unknown versus FTL. So we talked about Ron a little bit tonight. We talked about Snake a little bit tonight. Who comes out on top here, Icon?
I mean, I kind of gotta vote for Snake. I can't really speak too much to statistical results right now, but I will say that we, between the Unknown and FTL, had a private scrim before Pro Series started when we both knew our rosters, and not to put too fine of a point on it, but we schmacked them. So I think that Snake will be doing that again, hopefully. Ron is definitely a super good player. He always definitely brings his A game, but I think Snake actually has the hidden historical matchup in this case, and will probably I would bet on him to do it again because he's my boy.
Lotus, you agree with that?
I'm hoping Snake wins in Pro so he can lose in Legacy to me.
Okay. Fair enough. I also lied. We didn't get one match of every game. We didn't grab one for.
We got the matches that matter. It's all good.
We didn't get the matches that matter. I think I intended to grab one from my own team. It just completely mixed. I was like, I'd rather talk about Kungmar versus Daravis, to be honest with you.
Three Kungmar versus Daravis.
Oh, so there 4 times actually.
You added one from how many I have. I only had 3 in the original one.
Hey, don't give away the production secrets. So that's it for us. We've reached I think the point where everyone is leaving because we think we're funnier than we really are.
Or because we're talking about the series with 40 players in it. Take your pick.
That's possible too. Either way, it's.
Are we going to talk about the leaks?
Oh yeah.
Oh true. Yeah, we can do that real quick. I guess so. We're at an hour right now, so we'll do this quick. So just to run through the list of cards that or I guess the expected cards.
Right.
Lotus, do you want to just run us through, just read off what the expected cards are?
Sure. So right now we have Ragnaros and N'Zoth confirmed. Those are always coming. The speculated neutrals, according to the leak, would be Sylvanas, Emperor Thaurissan, and Curator. For Druid, we have Kun and Astral. For Rogue, we have Shaku and Swashbuckler. For Shaman, we have everyone's favorite card, Think From Below and Evolve. For Mage, we have Flamewaker and Babel. For Warlock, Imp Gang Boss and Renounced Darkness. For Priest, we have Light Bomb and Vol'jin. Warrior has Bloodhoof Brave and Varian Rin, while Hunter has Call of the Wild and Lock and Load. And finally, Paladin has another very much missed card, Mysterious Challenger and Avenge.
So I think, as we do like to rank things on this show, let's, with minimal explanation here, what are the top 5 cards in? You can order them if you want to, but what are the top 5 cards you're most excited for out of this list? Icon, how about you first? What are your top 5 cards in this list?
Ragnaros, Sylvanas, Mysterious Challenger, oh boy, What was the Imp Gang Boss and final one? Let's say Call the Wild.
All right, Lotus, how about you?
So I think the cards that at least will make an impact. More than excited, I'm afraid of some of them. I think Rag is going to be in. I think Emperor Thorson is a very dangerous card, really good, and that card will be around. I think Kuhn is going to make into the Quest Druid, which is already a super powerful deck and will just be a nice addition in there. I think Thing from Below is going to be around, and we're all going to hate it again because we really hated it first time. And I'll say Imp Gang Boss because that's a really good zoo card. I do love Renounced Darkness though. It's still a meme. It's still awful, but I'm glad that if they bring it back, I think it will be fun.
I mean, definitely is. Yeah, it's a fun card, but like you said, it's not going to be massively competitive, most likely.
No, definitely not. I'm never bringing it, but it's fun.
So the 5 cards I'm most excited for, it's the reasoning. 3 of them I never got to play with, because I started in TGT like near the end of it, and I was like free to play up until like Knights of the Frozen Throne. So I'm excited for Thorson and Flamewaker, because I do think that they're busted good cards. But I never got to play with Light Bomb, Mysterious Challenger, or N'Zoth, and I want to. So
Wait, you never played with N'Zoth? Wasn't N'Zoth at
you never
Old
tried
Gods?
N'Zoth?
I never had N'Zoth.
Q Block?
Oh, you're just saying like dust-wise. You're not.
I never had it. I never had it, and I never crafted it. So I never.
Oh, but it
really
was
played
so
with it.
good in Q Block.
Oh, I know. I know. I didn't play a lot of Q Block back then, so that's why when N'Zoth rotated out and Q Block was still a thing, I sucked at it. So yeah, I'm excited to play with it. I like Control Priest, so I'm hoping maybe Light Bomb is enough to help get it there. I don't know. I'll be refreshing Zadalot's Twitter account to see if there's a list. And yeah, Mysterious Challenger is home to, or is the reason for one of my favorite Twitch clips of all time, which was Day 9 freaking out because of the mage who pulled Mysterious Challenger off.
Oh, that's so good.
All right.
And then he plays he plays it as like a Christmas tree of secrets, and he's just losing his mind laughing hysterically because he has such an infectious laugh. It's like one of my favorite clips of all time.
I love the sentence that he said. That's Mysterious Challenger is really messing up the meta. Whenever you think you're facing mage, nope, it's Secret Paladin.
It was so true, and he's so fun to watch. Even like I know he doesn't do like a lot of Hearthstone anymore, but he's just he tells a bunch of great stories. So it's still fun to tune into his stream or even catch like YouTube clips.
Right.
Yeah, so this should be fun. Hopefully, I think you said they're planning on confirming something on Friday. Is that right, Lotus? About the cards?
October 4th.
Okay, yeah. So we'll see in a couple of days for sure. But yeah, we'll have to hold out and see, and then of course maybe we'll have to talk about how that's going to impact the meta, because it will. And our hat wants you to all submit your classes, please. So do that. And
please.
Yeah, please do it. All series now, or don't. You'll get rolled over, I guess, at least, but don't do that if you can avoid it. That's it for us. So any last words, Icon, before we head out?
No, thank you for having me, Dante.
As always, happy to have you here. And Lotus, you as well. Anything you'd like to say before we go?
No, thank you for having me, and good luck to everyone who watched us in their matches.
Good luck, absolutely. Booze, I see you in chat, boy. I am ready to play our Pro Series match right after this, so I'll be getting at you in a few minutes. And everyone else, good luck, unless your name is Boozosaurus. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next Wednesday.